David Cassidy, man undercover, won't be seen tonight, so he can bring you a very special episode of The Gen X Files. Welcome to The Gen X Files. I'm Jim.
I'm Adam.
And today's show is all about
Match Game. That's really good.
Oh, man.
Nice.
One of my favorite songs ever, and my favorite game show ever.
Oh, yeah. Take yourself back to 1973. Ooh. January 14th, Elvis Presley's concert in Hawaii breaks the record for worldwide viewers previously set by the Apollo moon landings.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. I like banana, bacon, and cheese sandwiches, and I was eating one on the toilet when...
Is there cheese on them?
And I died. It was bacon, banana, and peanut butter.
There you go. That's what it was.
Probably got some cheese on it, too, and deep fried by my mama.
Shocked he lived as long as he did.
I like pills.
Well, pills liked him. That's for sure. April 3rd, the first handheld mobile phone call is made by Martin Cooper of Motorola in New York City.
Ugh, and you know what the first call was? You know what the first thing that the first caller said?
Can you hear me now?
Hey, guess where I'm calling from? Guess where I'm calling from? I'm calling from a car. Guess where I'm calling from? Ugh. That was the worst part about it. Guess where I'm calling you from?
Yeah.
I'm at the movies.
July 1st, the United States Drug Enforcement Administration is founded.
Boo.
Yeah, I know.
Boo on you.
Yeah. It's July 1st. I was just surprised. I thought it was older than that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. But
I guess, well, I mean, that was like, it was in response to the hippie movement, man, and everybody.
Of course it was.
You don't realize how close pot became to being legalized in the 70s.
Yeah.
Gerald Ford was so close. There's a really great Saturday Night Live bit with Chevy Chase as Ford.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I guess if we're going to legalize it, I better figure out how to roll one of these things. And it's like him trying to roll a joint, ripping
hilarious.
the paper and all. It was absolutely, if you can find it on YouTube, back when Chevy Chase was a joy.
Yeah. July 2nd, Match Game 73 premiered on CBS at 4 p.m. This is something else that I thought was really interesting, and we'll get into this, but for some reason, watching all the Match Game PM and Match Game 73, I really thought these were on later in the day. Match Game PM was on at 7 o'clock.
Well, that's PM, baby. Anything after noon is PM.
I know. It was just weird. Anyway.
Yes, no. But probably by the time you watched it, it was in a different rotation of syndication. So
by the time I watched it was the last 5 years. So it was on, but yeah.
And also different markets. And like you talk about with the last show, some affiliates would absorb other shows because they didn't know. So
it was part of the fringe prime time, the late fringe prime time.
Because for me, I just remember basically being homesick or summer vacation.
Yeah.
And then that was Match Game City, baby.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Because it would start, you would hit Match Game and then the $25,000 pyramid. And then 1 o'clock, they started showing Perry friggin' Mason, and it was such a speed bump to the day. Because fine show for adults, but a child at home is obsessed with celebrity game shows.
Right.
You get it broken up by a 1950s courtroom drama with Perry Mason always at the last minute. No, wait 1 second, Your Honor.
With they always started soap operas early where I was, and after Price is Right was over at 11, they'd go into some soap opera, and God, man, I never turned the TV off faster.
But that's the thing. The other two channels are held hostage by the stories, by your mom and your grandma's stories. Got to watch my stories. Yeah. My mom never did, by the way. My mom was not a stay-at-home mom and did not watch. I don't want to paint her as not that there's anything wrong with that, but I don't want to paint her as somebody who watched a bunch of.
My mom watched one, and it was something she started watching when she was 15.
I don't think my sister did. My sister worked for our stepdad for a while, and she got into one, and then pulled me into it. And I don't remember which one it was. It was All My Children or something. But I totally get it. They're so they're gripping because it's just
of course they're ridiculous. I mean they have to be.
It was it was before.
I get it.
Before things became real salacious and violent, and you had all of your delicacies on streaming of any sort of
the soap opera my mom watched eventually, it was the one that kind of led it was A Different World or something, or different
Another
something.
World.
Another World, that's what it was. And it embraced, when things got weird, it embraced it so hard. My mom was like, I don't think I'm gonna watch this anymore.
Never trust a guy with an eye patch, Adam. That's what I learned from watching my stories.
That's true.
But yeah, I think because you had to watch Perry Mason because there was only one channel that was running game shows, and you would also get your Dick Van Dyke shows, you know, which I loved, and your Honeymooners or your I Love Lucy's. You know, you'd have a good block of comedies,
good comedy stuff. Yeah,
but man, it was that awful Perry Mason hour, man. I dread it. 1 o'clock.
Within 3 months, Match Game 73 was the most watched program on daytime television.
Of course it was.
By summer 1974, it grew into an absolute phenomenon, with high school students and housewives scoring remarkable ratings among the 12 to 34 age demographic.
Yeah.
Because it was on right after school. People would come home and watch it all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, that was...
Kids in the 70s were smoking the grass with the friends that get together and smoke their grass and watch Gene Rayburn do his thing, baby. Oh, he did his thing.
By the 76 season, it was drawing higher numbers than that of some prime time series. Like, I mean, it was huge.
Well, because I've said this before, that I cannot stand knowing things about celebrities. Because it ruins stuff for them. But back then, nobody knew anything about celebrities. No. Barely. There were some rags that ran, you know, manufactured stories about people whose careers were on the way down anyway, or pissed off some sort of
The Inquirer was
studio
the thing, but
chief. But this was the only time we really got to see our favorite celebrities be goofballs and drink and be silly.
Be
you
fun.
know, it was like a party. It was like a Hollywood party that we were invited to, and it was a little bit bawdy. You know, there was a little something under the surface. It was a little dirty and not too. We shouldn't be watching this.
It surpassed records as the most popular daytime program ever, with a record 11 million daily viewers.
Good Lord!
Eventually, that record would be shattered, but
but
later.
that's amazing.
That's huge
for daytime.
Huge.
That's amazing.
Match Game 73 was not the first version of Match Game. It actually started in 1962. It was created by Frank Wayne for Mark Goodson, Bill Todman Productions.
A Mark Goodson, Bill Todman production.
Always. During a corporate creative meeting, Wayne had an idea.
Try this. Write down something about an elephant and try to write the same thing that you think the others will.
Several different answers came up. It's gray, it's big, but 2 people wrote,
it has a trunk.
Mark Goodson was intrigued with the concept of a game where there was no right or wrong answers and only matching answers scored points.
I am quite intrigued with this game with no right or wrong answers.
I mean, it's a game show without an actual game. Like it's
It is. I mean, but that's the other thing too, is it's not for smarties. Like Jeopardy's for smarties, and it's great. It's a smug game. We've talked about this.
Yes.
But this is a game where you just purely guess. You know, and there's dumb guesses. I mean, there's times where you just face palm because, you know, it's like blank a doodle doo, and people are like, I don't know, rooster. And they're like, what? Come on, we all know it's a cock.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's a fun show. Anybody can play. Anybody can win.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's fun. I mean, that's the point.
And you get to play with your favorite celebs.
Yeah, exactly. The Match Game debuted on December 31st.
That they could afford.
1962, with Gene Rayburn as the host. Rayburn broke into television as the original announcer on Steve Allen's Tonight, where he met game show producers Mark Goodson and Bill Todman in 1953.
Nice.
Steve Allen's Tonight was actually the very first late night show. It only ran for a couple years, but it was the very first late night show.
He was awesome. He used to come into the Mondrian and play the piano. Just come in and play it when I was bartending there.
Nice.
He was such a cool dude. It was like the end of all those dudes in the early 90s, you know. It was like...
Yeah.
But they would come in. Walter Matthau used to come in. He was nicest dude. But it was like,
I did work at the Steve Allen Theater in Hollywood for a while, different shows. But unfortunately, it's torn down now. It's gone.
Did you ever meet him?
No, he was dead by that point.
Oh.
But I did get to meet a lot of other really cool people. Like I got to meet all the kids in the hall and like work with them and all that stuff. But,
nice.
But no, Steve Allen was gone by that point. He made so Gene Rayburn made a ton of appearances on various television programs, hosting or guesting throughout the 50s.
So weird, because Gene Rayburn kind of looks like a horse.
Yeah.
He's got a funny look.
His parents were Croatian, and I should have written down his original name because it was very hard to pronounce.
He is basically a Mad Magazine parody come to life.
Yeah, he's a caricature. Completely.
I love him so much. He is my favorite game show host in the world. My middle name is Rayburn, which I loathed as a child because I didn't realize why. I didn't know politics back then. But when I found out Gene Rayburn, even though it breaks my heart that he picked that name out of a phone book.
Yeah. Well, he had to do something else.
But it gave me validity.
Yeah.
I was like, Rayburn.
Yeah.
And then I was like, maybe we're related. And then I just loved him.
He would also appear frequently as a panelist on What's My Line and To Tell the Truth. He was essentially, I wouldn't say, he's a household name by this point. Like, people knew him.
Yeah.
Like, they knew who he was. They liked watching him.
TV was very limited. And if you were on TV,
People
you were a household name.
People knew you. Yeah.
If you're on the network, I mean, they're all networks. I was like, well, there was some UHF and local affiliates and stuff.
Yeah, there was local stuff, definitely local stuff, but even then, still not a lot. I mean, it was still very rare. So the original match game in 1962 pitted two teams of three, one celebrity and two civilians against each other, with points being won if team members' answers matched one another. Game show technology was still in its infancy, so even though they had electronic signs to indicate a match and the number of points, players still had to raise their hands to alert Gene that they were ready to show their answer.
Gene, I'm ready to answer. Can you see, Gene? Can you see my hand? I see it.
The questions used in the game were very pedestrian in nature, like
name a kind of muffin. Write down one of the words to row your boat, other than row your or boat.
Or
John loves his blank.
The humor in the original series came largely from the panelists' reactions to the other answers.
Ooh.
Yeah. In 1963, NBC actually canceled the series with 6 weeks left of production. So, question writer Dick DeBartolo.
Oh, baby.
Oh, yeah. He was also freelance with Mad Magazine.
One of the best Mad Magazine writers. One of the best. Did so many of the parodies.
Oh, yeah.
So many of the great. Dick D.
Yeah. He came up with a funnier set of questions like,
Mary likes to pour gravy all over John's blank.
And he submitted it to Mark Goodson. It was 1963, so of course the panelists would give answers like
mashed potatoes
or
meatloaf.
But the unspoken possibilities made the audience titter.
I love tittering, by the way.
Yeah, it's good. Well, you see any old clips of Batch Game from 1963? Oh, there was a lot of tittering.
Oh, man. If I'm tittering, I'm happy.
With the knowledge that the show could not be canceled again, Goodson gave the go-ahead for the more risque-sounding questions, a decision that caused a significant boost in ratings and an uncancellation by NBC.
See what happens when you got nothing to lose?
Yeah.
You sometimes you win.
Sometimes you hit. The match game continued through September 26th, 1969 on NBC for 1,760 episodes.
Good Lord, that's great for the first run.
Yeah, it's a lot. Although the series still did well in the ratings, it was canceled in 1969 along with other game shows in a major daytime programming overhaul, being replaced by Letters to Laugh In, which a spin-off of the popular primetime series Rowan and Martin's Laugh In, but only lasted 3 months.
Shock it to me!
Which actually, Letters to Laugh In, I found out after, was actually a game show as well, and I'm not sure how it worked.
They read letters and they said if they were real or not, probably.
Yeah.
Laughin' was hilarious. It was like
Laugh-In
the
was great.
precursor to Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
That was the Richard Nixon was on. Shock it
Yeah.
to me. Goldie Hawn got her start on that. And Rowan was on Match Game quite a bit.
Yeah.
I think Martin too, maybe.
Probably. I wouldn't be surprised.
Never together, because they were the same person.
Yeah, never, yeah. In the early 1970s, CBS Vice President Fred Silverman began overhauling the network's programming as part of what has colloquially become known as the Rural Purge.
The Rural Purge, time to get rid of all them farming shoes.
The Rural Purge was of American television networks, in particular CBS, was a series of cancellations in the early 1970s of some very still popular rural-themed shows with demographically skewed audiences, the majority of which occurred at the end of the 1970-71 television season. In addition to rural-themed shows such as Mayberry RFD.
Okay, Mayberry RFD was a spinoff of the Andy Griffith Show.
Yeah.
And, it was time to go.
Yeah.
It was so weird seeing the Griffith people in color and man,
Yeah,
Opie
yeah.
was still.
It had been on for a
Ron
long time,
Howard was
yeah.
a little long in the tooth to be playing such a good boy.
Beverly Hillbillies and Green Acres. The Andy Griffith
Yeah.
Show was so popular.
One of the best shows ever on television.
And it started this whole run of like, we're going to put people in the country.
Most malcontent men that I know have the Andy Griffith fantasy of being a sheriff in a small town where nothing happens, having a son and no wife to bug you,
Yeah.
but an aunt that takes care of everything. So many friends. I could name names, but I'm not gonna. But they're just like, yeah, man, that would just be the thing. That would just be great.
That's when America was great.
Ooh. But yeah, man. I mean, I think Green Acres. That was
Yeah.
the guy from Benji. And,
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah,
Benji
yeah.
was on.
He was on that, yeah.
Green Acres.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, it was time for all those. Here's
Yeah,
the thing:
yeah.
is more people were getting color televisions, and they didn't think that the rurals, i.e., the poors, could afford the color televisions. So
Right,
they went
right.
for the more metropolitan. It's so snooty.
It was. Along with these rural purge, they canceled a bunch of variety shows that CBS had on since essentially like the 40s.
Yeah, it was everything changed.
It was
in
just
that
huge.
time.
It was a
Yeah.
huge shift.
They got rid of all the stuff that people really liked and decided to force a bunch of crap that they didn't.
As part of the overhaul, the network reintroduced game shows beginning in 1972.
Because they're much cheaper to produce.
That's true. That is very true. One of the first new offerings was The New Price is Right, a radically overhauled version of the 1950s game show The Price is Right. The success of The New Price is Right prompted Silverman to commission more game shows. In the summer of 1973, Mark Goodson and Bill Todman took a similar approach in adapting the match game by reworking the show, moving it to Los Angeles, adding more celebrities, and increasing the amount of prize money that could be won.
All very smart choices.
Very smart choices. It was this show, along with the $10,000 Pyramid, 3 on a Match, and Jackpot, that reintroduced five-figure payouts for the first time since the quiz show scandals of the late 1950s.
You know why people don't remember 3 on a match?
No.
Because 3 on a match is a goocher, baby. It's bad luck. You don't light 3 ciggies on a match.
Oh, yeah.
It's a goocher.
It's a goocher. Okay. I don't think it was a reference to lighting 3 cigarettes with a match.
Yeah, it is. 100%. I mean, it's a play on words for that. But 3 to
yeah.
a match was it was really a superstition in World War
Right.
II where you would never light
More
than 2 cigarettes because it was then it would be a bad omen.
The gameplay for this version of the show had 2 solo contestants attempting to match the answers given by a 6 celebrity panel. The first week's panelists were
Richard Dawson, Michael Landon, Vicki Lawrence, Jack Clogwin, Joanne Flug, and Anita Gillette.
Rayburn reassured viewers of the first week of CBS shows that
This is your old favorite updated with more action, more money, and as you can see, more celebrities.
the first few weeks of the show were somewhat different from the rest of the run. At first, many of the questions fit into the more bland and innocuous mold of the earlier seasons of the original series. In addition, many of the frequent panelists on the early episodes were not regulars later in the series, but had appeared on the 60s version, including Klugman, Arlene Francis, and Bert Convy.
Bert Convy, baby.
Yeah, Bert Convy.
Handsome man.
He was.
Also one of the only game shows where you got to sit. You just sat down, you were comfortable.
Yeah, it was
just
you're just
sitting there.
chilling, just hanging out.
Sitting there, matching with celebs.
However, the double entendre in the question
Johnny always put butter on his blank.
marked a turning point in the questions on the show. Soon, the tone of Rayburn's questions changed notably, leaving behind the staid topics that the match game had first disposed of in 1963 for more risque humor.
Oh, yeah, it was like, Dumb Donald was so dumb. How dumb was
Yeah,
he?
yeah.
That he thought he could grow a tree by putting fertilizer on his blank.
Celebrity panelist Brett Summers, Klugman's wife at the time.
Oh, man. What a lucky guy. She's hilarious.
Oh, yeah, she's funny as
He was on the television series The Odd Couple, and he was also Quincy M.D. I love Jack Klugman. Also, a really sad death in the movie 2 Minute Warning about the guy shooting up the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Klugman
That's right.
He's a gambler. I'm a gambler down on my luck. And then he wins. Oh, and then when he stands up to wins, bang, bang, he gets shot and die. Boom.
Nah, that's
no more Kluggy. The Klugs is dudes.
So Brett Summers and Charles Nelson Riley began as guest panelists on the program. with Summers brought in at the request of Klugman, who felt she would make a nice fit on the program.
Giles Nelson Riley.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Him and Summers had a really good chemistry.
They did.
It prompted Goodson Todman to make them regular panelists.
It was great because they had certain people that just they collected celebrities along the way.
Yeah.
You know, and soon it was Marshall Wallace, and it was, well, you get like Betty White, you know.
Betty White was on quite a bit.
Yeah, because they would find these people that just fit. And they would also find people that didn't, you know.
Yeah, I mean, they would have their regulars, and they would have their semi-regulars, and they'd have people that come in for, you know, usually there'd be one person that was just like, hey, I'm on to promote something, and
exactly.
like, whatever.
Hello, Falcon Crest.
Interestingly, Charles Nelson Riley and Gene Rayburn actually worked together on Broadway in the 50s. Charles Nelson Riley was Gene Rayburn's stand-in during a Broadway show.
It was Romeo and Juliet.
If you want to know why that's funny, watch an old episode, because Charles Nelson Riley and Gene Rayburn do not look alike at all.
No, but I mean, it was a play, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he was his understudy.
Yeah. No, he was a stand-in. I don't even think he was an understudy.
Plays have stand-ins?
I think he literally was a stand-in during rehearsals.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Riley was Rayburn stand-in?
Yes.
What a weird. I wonder what they were doing.
100%.
It was Hunchback of the
I think it was Bye Bye Birdie, if I remember correctly.
Oh, he was probably playing the announcer.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Celebrity panelists appeared in week-long blocks due to the show's production schedule. Rayburn actually lived in Cape Cod in Massachusetts and flew to Los Angeles every 2 weeks on a Friday, and then the cast and crew proceeded to tape 12 shows over the weekend.
Brilliant.
So great. With such an exhaustive schedule, the panelists and hosts tended to imbibe a bit during the lunch break and the dinner break.
Yeah, the after meal shows were the best when they had their little styrofoam cups full of booze.
Yeah,
and they were sipsies, and they were all tipsies. And that's when things got loosey-goosey.
It was interesting because as the week progressed, you could see the episodes.
Yeah,
that were
got sloppy, baby.
Were definitely filmed later in the day.
It was like a bunch of children. You couldn't keep them in their seats. They would just get up and do. I mean, it was so crazy. It was so fun.
That was the beauty of it, is that you never knew what was going to happen.
Exactly. It was a bunch of drunken, out of control, silly celebrities. You know, it was
just having fun.
It was so much fun watching some of your favorite people just be goofballs.
Yeah, they would drink a lot of vodka in their styrofoam cups instead of water. They would comment on it once in a while, but they didn't really point it out.
No.
It was just, you know, sometimes they'd make double entendre jokes about the drinks and all this. Despite his on-screen demeanor, however, Richard Dawson did not drink. His beverage of choice was always coffee.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
He was very...
This is the first red flag that Richard Dawson thinks he's better than everyone else.
Hey, look, Richard Dawson was a sex symbol back then. He was a daytime sex symbol. Every mom wanted some of the DOS. Some of the DOS sauce. You know what I'm saying?
No. I don't know what you're saying, and I don't want to know what you're saying.
But yeah, he was Hogan's Heroes. He just was a very charming Englishman.
Yeah.
He had that kind of air, that Richard Burton air. You know, he had that kind of gravitas, but also kind of funny and seemed to really like people. Come here, darling. Let me give you a kiss.
I mean, he was definitely very personable.
Oh, and super charming.
I mean, he's a great host, and he was great. Yeah,
charming. One of the best, in my opinion, Family Feud host of all time. I love all the others.
I will always number one in my heart. Louis Anderson.
Louis Anderson's great.
He was so bad at it, but it made it so entertaining.
And hey, I like Steve Harvey. He's really funny.
Steve Harvey was great too.
But
yeah.
Richard Dawson was so charming and just, you know, it was like he elevated the game show to something different with that show. That I don't think has been done since. You know, it was a good actor who was charming enough to be a great host. There's been really great hosts and great actor hosts. Alec Baldwin's a good host. Jane Lynch is a great host.
Yeah.
But he just had this kind of, because he was kissing everybody and all the ladies loved him. And he just, you know that he wanted people to win.
Yeah.
And then, oh, darling, okay. Come here, darling. Put your arm around you. What do you think, darling? Okay, are you ready for this? You know, he was just really in the corner.
Yeah. I mean, he made people want to watch him. I mean, that was he sold the show. He sold himself.
Yeah, turned into a bit of a dick on the other show, but we'll get into that.
Yeah, we'll get into it. A number of celebrities, including Betty White, Dick Martin, Marsha Wallace, Bill Daly, McLean? Is it McLean or McLean?
McLean Stevenson? Yes, from MASH.
It's funny because I know it's McLean, and I see the word written down, and I say McLean. I can't help it.
Colonel Blake's plane was shot down over Korea at 0500 hours.
and Fanny Flagg. They were all semi-regular panelists, usually appearing several times a year.
Fanny Flagg had bright red hair. She was hilarious and has one of the greatest
funny, yeah.
names.
Oh, yeah. Celebrity panels also included personalities from other Goodson-Todman-produced game shows like Bob Barker, Anitra Ford, Janice Pennington, and Holly Hallstrom, all from The Price is Right, and Alan Ludden from Password. They would come on and hang out for a while. Bob Barker early on was on a lot.
Yes, there was a great exchange between them where Gene Rayburn's like, I follow you. And he's like, what are you talking about? He's like, your show is after this show. My show is after your show. You come on then you're on again. He's like, oh, yes, I do. It was so weird. It was like somebody turned on Bob Barker, the robot. He didn't quite get it.
Due to the success of the afternoon match game, a weekly nighttime series dubbed Match Game PM premiered on September 8th, 1975, the first syndicated version of Match Game.
Yeah, and it was just like NyQuil PM because it made you feel goofy and sleepy and weird in all the right places.
It was a primetime fringe show airing once a week in the hour before primetime started.
So 7.
Yeah, either 7 or 7:30. Depending.
Right. Or
Which
6 if you were in the mountain or whatever.
Central.
Yeah.
Ours was always 6 because for me growing up, the primetime fringe shows was Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune.
Those were on at 6.
Started at 6 and 6:30, but our primetime started at 7.
Yeah, we did. We were more sophisticated. We started at 8.
It's just a time.
We were like
time
Europeans.
thing. I know.
And you were like peons.
Central time zone just piggybacked on the Eastern time zone and just did. They were like, this is an hour earlier.
I was always very jealous because you got to see everything an hour earlier. Plus, when I was at an age of bedtimes.
Right.
I would miss out on a lot of great shows. Starsky and Hutch started at 9 or 10. Baby, I can get it. I had to sneak.
Yeah. No, Match Game PM was the first version of the game with self-contained episodes. The daytime version allowed contestant champions to come back, straddling episodes as was the given standard at the time.
Oh, man, it burns my biscuits. That is not, it just should be that way universally in game shows. If you win, you
100%.
stay.
I mean, look, even Jeopardy changed it so that it wasn't just 5 wins.
Yeah.
You do as many as you want, and look what happened.
It's stupid, and I hate it. It's ruined my life.
Match Game PM ran until 1981. The contestant who matched more celebrities at the end of the game won the game and went on to play the Super Match, which consisted of the audience match and the head-to-head match segments for additional money.
Yep.
On the CBS version, the winner of the main game won $100.
Man, they only won $100?
Just for winning the game itself. You had to win extra money. Yeah. It wasn't a lot. I mean, maybe
back then, $100 was like $1 million.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
According to your math,
$100 was $600
would be about.
Oh no, because the Magnavox Odyssey was
right?
$100 and it was $623.
$623. There we go.
So there you go. You won $623.
You won enough to buy a Magnavox Odyssey.
So for the audience match, the contestant was shown a short fill-in-the-blank phrase. For example,
tell it to blank.
For which the members of a previous studio audience had provided responses. The 3 most popular responses were hidden on the board, and the contestant attempted to match one of them.
Yeah, because it could be, tell it to the hand.
Yeah, or
but
tell
nobody
it
said
to
that
your
back
mama
then.
Or something. Yeah, I mean,
tell it to the mountain.
Tell it to the mountain. That's
that
probably
one of
what
the
I would
things?
say. Yeah, or yeah.
Well, that was go tell it on the mountain.
I thought it was too.
But
matching one of the 3 responses on the board awarded $500, $250, or $100 in descending order of popularity. If the contestant failed to match any of them, the round ended immediately, and the contestant won nothing. The premise for Family Feud was derived from this audience match round of the game.
Survey says.
Yeah, I mean, this is literally it's the main reason that I included this was because it is the reason that Family Feud exists was because of the audience match.
How do people survey? Answers on the board. Survey says.
2 audience matches were played on Match Game PM, allowing the contestant to win up to $1,000 in this half of the super match.
That's worth like $6,000.
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah. A contestant who won money in the audience match then had the opportunity to win an additional 10 times that amount.
Damn.
$5,200, $2,500, or $1,000 by exactly matching another fill-in-the-blank response with one celebrity panelist. The format of these matches was much shorter and non-humorous, typically requiring the contestant and celebrity to choose from a number of familiar phrases. For example,
baseball blank.
And it could be baseball game,
balls,
baseball diamond, baseball balls.
But that's what somebody. So it'd be like. So they go, all right, who are you going to choose? And then every single time they'd be like, Richard Johnson.
Yeah.
All right, Richard. What do you think? And he would very dramatically write down his answer. And I don't know. It was very serious, this part.
Yeah.
No laughs and
No,
jokes.
this was not. It was big money. It was big money.
Sometimes the little drunkies behind would do some shenanigans.
They would,
and
yeah.
they'd be like, quiet, Brett Summers.
Try to pull the attention to themselves like celebrities
Put
do.
your shenanigans in your panigans,
Yeah.
Summers.
The contestant was instructed that his or her response must be an exact match, although singular, plural matches were usually accepted, whereas synonyms, derivatives, and partial word phrases were not.
So, okay. What would you say? And I'll tell you if
For
it's
baseball?
what would I, yeah. Baseball, blank.
Player.
Bat.
No,
You lost.
Yeah.
You lost $5,000.
All right, well.
Pay up, baby.
Originally, the contestant chose the celebrity. The panelist chosen most often by contestants to play the head-to-head match was Richard Dawson.
Richard Dawson.
Who usually matched with the contestants that chose him. He was actually really, really good at this.
Oh, he took it seriously.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's the thing. I think part of the reason why he didn't drink is because he took it. He one of these people. It shows in his.
Yeah.
He gets a bad rap, and maybe he's a bit of a Richard, if you know what, if you want to read between the lines. But he also took the game seriously and really wanted people to win.
He wanted people to win. Yes, very much so. Dawson, in fact, was such a popular choice for the second half of the super match that the producers instituted a rule in 1975 which forbade contestants from choosing the same panelists for consecutive head-to-head matches in an effort to give the other celebrities a chance to play. After 6 weeks, they discarded the rule.
Yeah, because
Nobody liked it.
Well, because they knew they had a good. Nobody. Look, I love Artie Johnson. He's hilarious as the tricycle riding Nazi or whatever he did on Laugh-In. But I'm not going to trust him with my match because he's not a proven commodity like Dickie Doss.
Yeah. Well, they were trying to. I think a lot of it was trying to still get away from the stink of the scandals in the late 50s.
It's also a bunch of drunk, jealous celebrities and like, why not pick on me? Just everybody was tired of Brett Summers and Jack Klugman all drunk and bitching behind the scenes about how nobody picked them.
On June 28th, 1978, the producers made a second attempt to ensure that each celebrity received a chance to play the head-to-head match. Instead of simply choosing a celebrity, the contestants spun a wheel that was divided into 6 sections, each marked with a different celebrity's name.
They tried everything.
They did. Once the wheel stopped, the contestant attempted to match with the indicated celebrity. If the wheel did not make at least one complete revolution, the contestant was required to spin again. Because some people actually tried to cheat.
Of course they did. They want the Dickie-Doo.
When the star wheel was first introduced, each section contained 5 stars and a continuous white border, and the prize was doubled if the wheel stopped with its pointer anywhere in that area. Ironically, the wheel stopped on Richard Dawson the very first time it was used,
hilarious.
inspiring 4 of the panelists, Brett Summers, Charles Nelson Riley, guest panelists Mary Wicks, and Dawson himself, to stand up from their places and leave the set momentarily out of disbelief, leaving recurring panelists Scoey Mitchell and guest panelist Sharon Farrell behind.
Well, they didn't let Cheryl Farrow in on the joke, apparently. They would do that a lot. You couldn't keep those. Keep them in the seats. And that was especially after the drinking ones.
It was funny. I mean, it was funny because it was a total by chance.
Well, yes, because Gene Rayburn was more of a babysitter on some shows than he was a host.
Yes.
He was trying to keep, and he was probably drunk too, trying to keep a bunch of drunkards in line.
But it was very obvious at this point that
very pretty nipples. I mean,
I totally understand how Dawson can come off as seeming kind of like prissy and hoity-toity, but like the producers tried so hard to dampen his celebrity on the show.
Well, to probably look, you're producing a show of children, okay? And one of the children is getting more attention than the other children, and the other children are getting all whiny about it. And then the child that's getting attention doesn't understand why everybody's so upset that he's getting attention. He thinks he deserves all the attention.
Sure,
I get it, and it's all silly, but
But it's not, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right.
Like
I mean, yeah.
it was working. I mean, there was no reason to do it anyway. I mean, it's fine. It made for some interesting moments, and
it also made things more predictable too, because everybody. I mean, they might have just like had the last thing, have everybody but Dawson leave the stage, and then have him do the thing.
That's true.
He's just,
that is true.
He'd be the celebrity guy, but because rarely they would pick, and when they had them picked for them. It was worse because the disappointment on the contestant's face when they got Jimmy J.J. Walker or something was just like, oh, man, fine. And then, the guy was like, I'm going to do my best, and then they were always like, I don't know this kind of stuff. I'm pretty bad at it.
Yeah. Nobody played along like Dawson did.
No, nobody took it seriously like Dawson.
At the time, Richard Dawson was becoming weary as a regular panelist on Match Game, as he had concurrently been hosting the by then more popular Family Feud since 1976.
This is where I disagree with Dawson, because he kind of went into a funk. He was wearing his sunglasses, and he lost all personality, and he just was a petulant child. He's like a petulant child sitting in church that can't wait to get out and just is so upset to be there.
So he wished to focus on Family Feud. The addition of the Star Wheel ended what effectively was Dawson's spotlight feature on the show, which distressed him even further, and he left the panel of Match Game permanently a few weeks later. Yeah, the last two shows he taped, he wore sunglasses, and the producers were like, well, what the hell's going on, man? Like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, go out on top, man. Don't go out like
it's just
punk.
like, why not just tell them, like, I don't want to do this anymore. It's fine.
I get it. Show. You're busy. It's tiring to do two shows, especially hosting, and, it's like it's a lot of being present. It's a lot of, concentrating is exhausting,
Yeah.
And you have to be very present if you're going to be a game show host or a game show contestant. It's a very specific tunnel that you're walking down.
And it's got to understand, too, that because of the way they film Match Game, this means that Richard Dawson was most likely working like 5 or 6 days a week.
Sure, he would come in on the weekends to do
this
Match Game.
And then he'd probably do 2 or 3 days of Family Feud during the week. And it's tiring. I mean, I get it.
But, I mean, he would only have to do one weekend a month.
Yeah. Well, 2 weekends a month. They did every 2 weeks. But even then, agreed. Yes. And at the same time, you're getting paid. You're doing whatever. You're on
sitting
TV.
Down,
like it's
drinking coffee, guessing guesses.
I agree. I mean, I understand where he's coming from, but at the same time, it's like, come on, man.
You got a driver driving you there. You got a driver driving you back. You're getting a nice steak dinner and martinis if you want them.
Whatever you want for lunch.
Dinner,
whatever.
I mean, crab. Louis,
for
lunch.
The baked Alaska for dessert.
Get your baked Alaska.
Yeah. In November 1977, CBS made a fatal mistake regarding the show's time slot.
Dun, dun, dun.
CBS moved Match Game to 11 a.m. immediately following The Price is Right at 10 a.m., which doesn't seem like a bad idea. I mean, they're two good shows. It's fine. And I understand why they did it. However, because much of Match Game's audience was composed of students who were in school at that time of day, ratings began to sag and eventually freefall.
Anytime they started shuffling a show to a different time slot, it was the death rattle of that show.
Any audience member would know. Anybody watching TV, it's like, something.
Because people, especially with a syndicated show, a lot of times too, it's going to be on a different time.
Well, at this point, it wasn't syndicated.
Right,
it was
okay.
CBS.
Yeah, but I mean, even that, like you said, even a slight time change can ruin everything. Because, it was funny because it seemed like, I think, like Sunday nights were like the worst time, or Saturday nights were the worst time for
Saturday
TV
was bad. Saturday.
I mean, Saturday was reclaimed by the Love Boat and stuff, but but you could see something, it would go from like Thursday, which was the peak, Tuesday, and then back to Monday, and then the third Wednesday of every month, and then it was just like
throw it on a Friday night, and you knew it was done. It was like put it to bed. It's done.
Friday at 10 a.m. 10 p.m.
10 p.m. It's like no. As a result, Family Feud quickly supplanted Match Game as television's highest-rated game show. CBS attempted to correct the problem on December 12th, 1977, with a scheduling shuffle among Match Game, Price is Right, and Tattletales. However, in a move that turned out to do even more damage, the network moved Match Game to its 1960s time slot of 4 p.m., a time slot which, by this point, many local stations were preempting in favor of local or syndicated programming.
Right. And I think Family Feud took off because of the family competition.
Of course,
a whole family against a whole family. It was really fun to see Grandma go head to head with Uncle Mark.
Exactly.
It was, and again, hosted by a very charming Englishman.
Right. As a result, Match Game was unable to get the audience it once did in the 60s at 4 p.m. So on July 19th, 1978, a new Match Game set was built by CBS, changed from the original bright orange to a new set with blue and white colors, as well as revamping the logo.
No.
At this point, they had still been calling it like Match Game 74 or Match Game 75 and like changing it.
Yes, I remember that.
At 4 p.m., the show trailed Family Feud, The Price is Right, and NBC's Wheel of Fortune, and it fell out of the top 3 game shows in 1979 for the first time in the CBS run. The 1,439th and final CBS episode aired on April 20th, 1979. The Tom Kennedy hosted game show, replaced Match Game on the schedule when it premiered in the 10:30 a.m. time slot on April 23rd, 1979.
Yeah, who remembers Phew?
Yeah, you know what? I looked it up, and the rules were so confusing that I was like, no wonder why no one knows what this show is.
Phew.
I tried to include it, but it would literally have taken us half the show to explain how to play it.
Nobody gives a crap.
Yeah.
That was the thing, too. Things became ridiculously complicated.
Yeah.
The conceits for some of these game shows are just like, okay, well, let's just, blow everybody's minds.
Yeah. After the cancellation of Match Game 79, there was still enough interest in the series for Goodson Todman to consider a continuation of the daily series in syndication, as the weekly Match Game PM was still airing and had not stopped production. The consideration eventually came to fruition as a daily syndicated Match Game without a year attached, and often referred to on air as The Match Game, which debuted on September 10th, 1979. The 73 to 82 run was taped in Studio 33 at CBS Television City in Los Angeles.
Nice. CBS Television City.
Shared the stage with The Price is Right. The daytime syndicated show produced 525 episodes running until September 10th, 1982, exactly 3 years after its debut.
That's synergy, baby.
It's weird. It's super weird. In 1983, producer Mark Goodson teamed up with Orion Television, who had recently acquired the rights to Hollywood Squares, and NBC to create the Match Game Hollywood Squares Hour.
That's a good match.
It is.
Because it's basically the same kind of goof. Hollywood Squares was fun. I didn't like it as much as Match Game.
Yeah.
I thought it was just a little too convoluted.
Yes.
And a little bit too much like...
Yeah.
Okay. You're not all Paul Lynde, okay?
No.
You're not all going to be funny, okay? You're not going to do it like he does. And a lot of times, because he was a master, man. That's why he was a center square. Paul Lynde. Boom. Love him. But yeah, it just got kind of... It just got kind of laborious.
And it had 9 celebrities rather than 6.
Circle gets the square.
And inevitably you have like 3 celebrities that just weren't good at it. And
or weren't into it.
Yeah, or just didn't care. And it was fine. I watched it in the 80s when they brought it back again. But like
questions are so arbitrary, you know. It was stuff like
but it was confusing. I mean, that was the thing, is that it was like you had to ask, the celebrity would give an answer, and then you had to agree if it was the right answer or not. And I was like, okay, you've got 3 steps to answer the question.
Right. And then the celebrities would make up these crazy answers.
Yeah.
But Paul Lynde was really good at making up crazy answers so the people would win. You know, he didn't do it to trick them.
Right.
He would just do it for the laugh. Yeah. Now, let me tell you, it'd be like, is the dress made of, he was just so, he was another guy that was, we got to do like the game show greats, one time of just the best contestants.
No, yeah. There was a great clip with Gilbert Gottfried, if you ever chance. It's on YouTube, check it out on Hollywood Squares, where he was doing that same thing, where he just made up crazy answers, and this woman just kept agreeing, and he would just scream, "You fool!" at her over and over again. And it literally went on for like 5 minutes of her answering, and him, it's like, obviously it's wrong, but she would agree, and yeah.
Well, people get nervous.
Yeah.
And yelling at some poor, nervous, regular lady probably didn't help her, Gilbert. But it's hilarious.
No. But he's funny.
I love Gilbert. He told the best of all of the aristocrats.
Oh, yes, he did. Gene Rayburn, after a year as a morning show host in New York, agreed to return to host the Match Game. However, few of the regular Squares cast appeared on this version. John Bauman of rock group Sha Na Na was tapped to host the Hollywood Squares segment of the game.
Now, he was known affectionately as Bowser. And Shauna, do,
yeah,
hello, sweetheart. And he would do this thing where he would flex his muscle, and then he would flex it with the fist the other way. Because Bowser had some guns that weren't really guns. But I just remember, for some reason, Bowser was just everywhere in the 80s.
It's so weird, because I did not see the Match Game Hollywood Scores Hour until recently. Like, Buzzer picked it up and they ran it for a while, and I literally had no idea who this guy was.
John
Bauman. I had no idea.
Dude.
I was like, he's so weak. He didn't seem like he was a good host.
Oh, no. But the thing about Sha Na was they were kind of like the Harlem Globetrotters of music. They had like 10 members and they would change, but they would have like the blonde guy and and Bowser was like the tough.
Yeah.
He was the Fonzie type. And they would sing all these doo-wop songs.
Yeah.
And they were hugely reasonably popular during the
No
70s
one really
and
understands
80s.
why.
Nobody does.
But there they were.
It was just another anomaly of the 70s, 80s overlap that created some really head-scratchers of celebrities.
So Bauman, Bowser, and Gene Rayburn, they would swap seats while the other hosted their portions of the show, which I think part of it is that John Bauman suddenly was sitting next to Charles Nelson Riley, and it's like, he's not going to be as funny. He's just not going to be as funny.
Okay. I'm John Bauman. Bowser. He was good for him, though,
I
man.
mean, more power to him.
He basically took flexing his arm and made it into a career. Black T-shirt. I remember it. I could see it with his flooped up pompadour, his grease hair, and oh man, good for him.
The Match Game Hollywood Scores Hour ran from October 31st, 1983 to July 27th, 1984, and then was summarily canceled. Yeah. In 1989, ABC, which had not carried a daytime game show since Bargain Hunters in 1987, ordered a revival of Match Game for its lineup.
There were some awful games like. They were just like coupon cutters and just stuff that was just,
There was a huge like retail thing. Like Sale of the Century was one of my favorites, but it had started earlier.
And Supermarket Sweep.
Supermarket Sweep. I love Supermarket Sweep.
Yeah, that was cool because you got to go. But a lot of them were just like, all right, you won these steaks. Yeah. And it's like, well, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for the steaks and macaroni and cheese that I get to take home.
Work your butt off and here's your $100. It's like, oh, awesome. Thanks.
It just seemed like making poor people work really hard to get crap was
wow. It's almost like it's America.
Yeah, you go at them.
I will say though, the new version of Supermarket Sweep with Leslie Jones as the host is one of my favorite things. Leslie Jones is amazing.
Leslie Jones, I adore her.
She's a fantastic host.
Yeah, I will watch it because of her. I quit Twitter a while ago because it's super unhealthy for me. But what I miss about Twitter is Leslie Jones live tweeting stuff because she is so funny. She's hilarious. So one of the funniest. And she's in her 50s.
Yeah.
Makes me love her even more.
Yeah. Yeah. A week's worth of pilot episodes were commissioned with Bert Convy as host, who was also hosting Third Degree for his own production company at the time.
Bert Convy did well. He was a good 80s host.
The network agreed to pick up the revival for a summer 1990 premiere. Unfortunately, just before the new series was to begin, producers were forced to find a new host when Convy was diagnosed with a terminal brain tumor in April 1990.
I remember that. And that was really sad, dude.
I remember that too.
Yeah. He was such a nice guy.
Such a good dude.
He was like on the Love Boat and stuff. He was just one of those kind of perennial all around. He was on everything he just was around during the 70s and 80s. There were just these celebrities that were there who would show up on your favorite shows that you just got to know and you loved them and they weren't, giant stars or anything.
Right.
But they were kind of like your friends that would just pop up, Bert, hey, he's on Laverne and Shirley this week.
Awesome.
And then he shows up as a heroin dealer on Starsky and Hutch. It just was a lot of fun, and it was super sad when he was diagnosed.
It was very sad. Although original host Gene Rayburn expressed interest in returning, the producers declined because Rayburn suspected it was because public knowledge of his age, which he was 72 at the time, led to him being snubbed.
I hate ageism. I think it's bull. Yes, man.
The deal is that Rayburn had never revealed his actual age, and he was outed by an Entertainment Tonight journalist.
What a jerk.
Literally came out, it was a couple years prior, had come out and been like, hey, did you guys know that Gene Rayburn's 70? It's like, what?
Today's celebrity birthdays.
He still would have been a great host.
Scott Baio's 36. And, Gene Rayburn, who nobody knows his age, is 72, Gene.
Yeah.
Good luck working in this town again, Gene.
It was just, yeah. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of Entertainment Tonight. So
No. It's fine. I mean, but that's still like, Who cares? If he's still, he was the best ever at that hosting gig.
He would have been great.
One of the best game show hosts, I would say.
Yeah.
I put him in the top with like Alex Trebek because they were masters of their game. Yeah. Alex Trebek was the best at hosting Jeopardy because he loved the game. He was the game, and he understood the game deeply.
He loved knowledge, and
Gene Rayburn understood the point and the purpose of Match Game deeply.
Yes.
Which was goofing around, having fun, giving people whose horrible lives are just awful a half hour just to laugh at some of their, and to make celebrities human and fun and go along with it. The great thing about him is he would let them go. He wasn't so much a babysitter as a babysitter that was kind of in on it.
Yeah.
The best kind of babysitter that was like, let's have some extra cookies. Or, you are staying up after your bedtime.
We can eat chocolate cake for dinner. It's fine.
But he wholly understood his show. And I think that's what makes the best hosts.
Yeah.
You can tell people, and look, I know it's just a job, but you can tell people where it is just a job, where they're just hosting and they're going through the motions and they can do fine. But there's a big difference between that and like Drew Carey, who deeply wants everybody to win, loves the program.
Cares,
The program he has a certain reverence toward it and a reverence toward the other host that gives him, humility.
Yeah, totally.
It's just those kind of guys make game shows special and timeless.
Yeah.
And you can watch Match Game today, 74, 75, 78. Pick, toss the dice, take your pick.
Yeah.
And it's still as funny today as it was.
Oh, it is. Totally. 100%.
Back then.
Yeah. So they end up hiring Ross Schaefer, the former host of Fox's Late Show and the USA Network dating series Love Me, Love Me Not, to take over as host. Yeah, he was not great.
I don't know who Ross Schaefer is.
He's not great. If you ever watch this, he's not. It's fine.
I would never watch anything without Gene Rayburn.
Yeah.
Match Game wise, I'm sorry.
Charles Nelson Riley returned as a regular panelist, and Brett Summers appeared as a guest panelist for several weeks. A lot of panelists returned, such as
Vicki Lawrence, Sally Struthers, Brad Garrett, Bill Kirchenbauer, Ron Lucas, Marsha Wallace, Betty White, Dick Martin, Dolly Martin, Joanne Worley, Edie McClurg, and J.J. Jimmy Dynamite Walker.
The show's 242nd and final episode aired on June 21st, 1991. This was ABC's final daytime game show.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
They personally did not produce game shows after that.
Well, do networks even produce games? I mean,
they
do
Not anymore. Most of them are syndication, except for Price is Right, which is CBS.
Okay. And then the primetime stuff.
Yes, that stuff, yes, but daytime. I'm talking daytime.
Match Game, I guess, is it Match Game PM? What do they call it?
No, this is called Match Game.
With the new one?
With Alec Baldwin, yeah.
He's good, but he's no Gene Rayburn. I'm sorry.
No.
And it's a little too reserved, it waffles between being a little too reserved and then a little too like we're trying to be like the old one.
Yes. But it's funny. It's fine.
I'd go on it.
Yeah.
I'd do it.
They tried bringing it back again in 1998, but it only ran for 7 months before being canceled again.
Because nobody wants to watch it without Gene.
I know.
It's it's Alex Trebek all over again. I think people sometimes the host or the character or whatever is the person you can't separate it.
Though in poor health and suffering from dementia, Gene Rayburn appeared in person to accept a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Academy of Television Arts and Sciences. A month later, on November 29th, 1999, he died of congestive heart failure at his daughter's home in Gloucester, Massachusetts at the age of 81.
Man, just shy of the millennium.
Yeah, almost made it. He was cremated and his ashes spread in the garden of his daughter's home. He only had one daughter. That was it, Lynn. She was only the one kid. He's married to his wife for like 60 years.
Yeah, those guys they were good dudes.
Yeah.
He was a good guy. That's the thing, too. He could be a total family man because he only had to go to work 2 weekends. It was the opposite of most Hollywood dads.
It's true.
Which you get to see your kids maybe 2 weekends a month because you're working so hard. But he reversed it so he could spend time with his daughter. And
it's really crazy though that he just never moved out here. He never. I mean, I'm good for him for getting away with it and being able to do it. But it's like I don't want you to raise you in Hollywood. You can stay out here, and I'll just be gone a couple weekends a month, and I'll be back. The show was revived again in 2016 with Alec Baldwin hosting. So the show has actually, Match Game has actually been produced in 12 different countries over the last 4 decades. The only one still currently running is in the UK with the name Blankety Blank.
Blankety blank, don't blank blank.
Which I think is the greatest name for a game show ever.
Oh, yes. Hello and welcome to Blankety Blank.
Yeah.
I'm your host, Super British. And our panelists are...
In 2013, TV Guide ranked the 73 to 79 CBS version of Match Game as number 4 in its list of the 60 greatest game shows ever.
I'd put it at number 3.
Yeah, I would probably put number 3 as well.
I would put The Price is Right as number 1.
Yeah.
I would put Jeopardy as number 2, only because a show that is so low key. I'm just so impressed.
Yeah.
That that a Smarty Smarts could be so popular.
It's still very popular.
Yeah. But and then I would put it number 3 because it was the most fun.
Yeah.
The reason why I loved, because I love game shows. I'm not as much of a game show nerd as you are.
Yeah.
But I was always drawn to the celebrity game shows in the 70s and stuff because, like I said, we didn't know what the celebrities were like.
Yeah.
So for me, Hollywood was just this, it was like a club of a bunch of people. They probably slept in bunk beds. They all hung out together. They did everything together. You know what I mean? It was just like, and this, and stuff like Match Game and Laugh-In and all these things. It even furthered that fantasy. Because it just seemed like they all just kind of partied and hung out. And I wanted to be part of that party so badly when I was a kid. I was so intrigued by these funny grown-ups that just were so goofy and silly like me.
It was very appealing.
It was so good.
The show was nominated twice for an Emmy Award, although it never won. And
Only twice?
Gene Rayburn was never nominated. Which the disappointing is that, who was nominated for hosting the Match Game?
Who?
Alec Baldwin.
Yeah, of course he was.
Yeah.
Ugh. I mean, no offense to Alec Baldwin. He's great, but
it's fine.
Just,
again, it's fine.
Gene Rayburn is a journeyman, man. Yeah. And the reason why he didn't get an Emmy is because people didn't take it seriously and they didn't realize how hard it was. Same thing with Chuck Barris.
Yeah.
He was another goofball, but he knew how to make a crazy, fun game show. Yeah. I don't know if he ever got an Emmy either.
I doubt it.
But people didn't give these innovators, these guys that had the toughest jobs.
Yeah.
Gene Rayburn made it look easy. He made it look seamless. And he was the ringleader of a 3-ring circus. And he did it perfectly. He kept a bunch of, celebrities in line. And that's not easy to do.
No, it's not. All right, we'll be back next week. We're going to talk about some weird game shows and some other fun things throughout the history of game shows.
We have an extra show this month.
Yeah.
So we're going to do something a little weird for you. We got next week for the stepdads. And then we have an extra... Might be good, might be bad.
Try something a little different.
Tune in, find out.
Yeah.
Joanne Flug.
Flug.
We now return you to your regularly scheduled programming, Silver Spoons, already in progress.